Awesome. First, thanks for coming out Monday night. Appreciate it. It's a great showing. Thanks for everybody else who's here today for the open training session. A little double dipping here at the Broadfield Stadium. My name is Ben Levin. I'm the new vice chairman here. I've been a part of WAGMI since the early days and was lucky enough to serve on the board for the last couple of years before the opportunity to come and join the club on a day-to-day basis arose for me. A lot of you are familiar looking to me. I've seen you around because I've been able to spend a lot of time in England over the last year. My girlfriend moved to London last March, so I was able to spend a lot of the last season around the club. I've fallen in love with the club. I've fallen in love with the vision that we have. And I'm looking forward to getting to know more of you throughout this season and continuing to push the club forward on this journey and enjoy this League One experience that we hope to make more of a continual yearly journey. And looking forward to responding to questions tonight throughout the season.
Ben might know the exact number, and I'm actually unsure if we're even allowed to say the exact number. I just know that it's about 800 to 900,000 more in League One than League Two. And Ben probably wants to correct me.
We don't have an exact figure of what it breaks down to for us because of the way the deal is spread out across all of the clubs and all of the leagues. But the jump to League One plus the TV deal is an extra £800,000. From a non-financial standpoint, it means that we're on live television 20 times at least. What that means for us actually is from now until January 1st, we're on live television 7 times at home and 3 times on the road. So it's a lot of exposure for the club. It's a lot of exposure for EFL football overall. What's really exciting for me is that my friends in the US can watch it also because the EFL just signed a deal with CBS Sports. So our matches will be shown, a couple of our matches will be shown in the US as well. But overall, it's a huge step forward for the EFL, and we benefit. We do benefit as well. Just the exact numbers aren't really broken down by TV and other resources that come down to us. We're in the process of looking at digital ticketing system. We've evaluated 4 so far. We're pretty close to making a decision on one that will not only make everybody in this room's life easier in terms of buying tickets, but also Katie's life downstairs and managing the ticketing process much easier. So yeah, it's an important thing to get right, and we hope to have it in place before Christmas, potentially much before, but we'll have to see how the implementation process goes. So I'll take a crack at it, and then maybe Preston can correct. So I think the first number one important thing for us to hit on over the next 5 years is to become a stable League One club that can compete on the pitch and can stay up and ultimately think about the next step. On the off-field side of things, right now our commercial operation is sort of on par with the National League club, maybe even Horsham, as we just discussed. And there's a lot of leveling up that we need to do off the field in terms of digital ticketing, in terms of social media outreach to broaden our fan base, to build up the club in a lot of ways. What that will also allow us to do is hopefully provide a foundation that we can move on a stadium in a way that will allow us to invest. Right now as a tenant, we're not necessarily incentivized to make certain improvements, but having a stadium that we can invest in and build to our specifications and would be great. Having a permanent training ground would be great. You think longer term, this is a really rich catchment area between basically Brighton and Crystal Palace. What could an academy be here? So the plan is to build a foundation, starting with stable League One football, bringing up the financial side of things to be much closer to, if not actually break even, to provide a foundation to invest on top of and build a bigger club.
Ben nailed it. I honestly might not have to do these anymore. I thought that was really good. On the playing front, more specifically, I think I referenced this on the podcast that I did a week ago now maybe. But part of being sustainable is obviously on the pitch, and so we have to be realistic. We obviously aren't going to say we're going to be promoted to the championship in 2 years. That wouldn't be very realistic. But so I think some of the numbers, like the average wage bill for players in League One last year was $5.6 million. So that's what we're competing against. and ours isn't close to that number. So we have to do as good of a job as we did last year at a higher level to try to stay up and sustain on the pitch, where everything else then can come into play, and combined we can do something special for the community and the town.
And
There is something in the works that is sort of like a program. Ben, you're just so good at this.
Here's an online one, is it?
No.
So the way the program had evolved was that it became financially unviable doing it week in, week out. We think we have a model now that we can bring back sort of a monthly fan magazine or fanzine that will provide pretty good in-depth coverage and interesting articles and features and
So
highlight.
obviously, if it's got the fixtures and the appearances and a few photographs and stuff, will you have that, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. We've been talking about maybe having a kids section in the back with some type of crossword type of thing. So we're working on that. Our
Okay.
plan is to have something by the end of the month. We're gonna trial a monthly magazine, a name to be determined,
You'll buy on a match day, yeah?
and hopefully before, and we'll keep it on sale throughout because it'll be monthly. It won't just be good for 1 week.
Okay.
And we're gonna trial it, and we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we can do it all season.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
When will the away circuits be able to be pre-booked?
Sorry, could you speak up? Didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's fine. He was just asking about the away and third kits and when they can be pre-ordered specifically. Harry and Tom might have a better idea, but I know a lot of our merchandise arrives Wednesday or Thursday this week is the due date. And then from there, we'll start putting stuff into the shop and then adding more to the club shop online. So I don't know if you guys have a window in your head that you guys want to throw out to give people an idea, or if I should wait on that, but.
That was fine.
Okay. Well, as soon as possible is the answer, and it does arrive this week, and then from there we can make some decisions. You shouldn't have to wait too long, but we'll get it there. Yeah. You had a question earlier?
Well, I've got two based on what you've just said as well.
Sure.
The first one is to build on what you told us in the podcast about the discussions with the local authority about the possibility of purchasing the stadium. And I guess, in the long term, we'd all want to know if that is likely. And if it's likely, where does that take us in owning the stadium? Because I think you highlighted before about all the works that needs to be done, the sewerage problem, the drainage, everything around
There's
us.
a lot more than that too, but yeah.
There's a bit of land out there, but there's seemingly maybe not enough to actually build and increase the size of the stadium. Do you have a size of stadium in mind?
I couldn't price it for you, or I couldn't give you like a likelihood that we're going to get the stadium or not. We have had discussions ongoing for over a year with the council trying to get something sorted. We're a lot closer than we've ever been as far as getting evaluations and trying to decide what the best next steps are. And it's just a slow process because that's how it goes with these types of things. But then to the rest of your question, from there, can we invest in the stadium, a brand new east stand, other options, just fixing up like 16 or 17 items that need fixing, or like this hospitality suite is one we're considering investing in this year anyways, just because we think it could use an upgrade and it would be beneficial for everybody at the club, and obviously those that are here more frequently for events, even not on match days. So there's so much possibility, and it starts with, obviously, for the majority of it, getting a deal done. So I couldn't tell you if it's likely, less likely. It's something we're pushing for constantly, and I think eventually we can get something done. But I couldn't really give you a time frame either.
In your vision-led visions that you have for this club and the future, do you have a size of stadium in mind, sort of 10, 12,000 perhaps?
I mean, the truth is, I think you actually need a 10,000 person minimum to play a level up from here. So that seems like a good goal for a rebuild of some sort or a renovation of some sort. And from there, obviously, if we can do more for a price that makes sense, then we'd consider it. But that would probably be our first goal, from where we're at now, almost 6,000 to that.
So we're projecting about 4,000 fans that game a match this year. That includes 1,000 away fans. Our capacity is about 6,000. So the what you were talking about before about awareness is a huge item for us to address, because we need to be We need to have 7,000, 8,000 people who want to come before we can justify a 10,000 seat stadium. That would be the dream. But we need to expand our awareness into Town Center, into Manor Royal, into these large areas with potential fans, into communities that we haven't been in before, so that we can not only have a better atmosphere that teams don't want to come play in because they know that Crawley fans are going to be packing the stadium and it's going to be raucous, but also so that ticket sales go up and kit sales go up, and we can invest that in the squad, and we can invest that in the stadium, etc. So there are steps, the foundation to build in order to set the right level that we can have a 10,000 seat stadium. But pop-up shops that we were talking about that today, where would be a great place? We're open for suggestions.
Gatwick Airport.
Yep.
Gatwick Airport, the Mall in Crawley.
Yeah.
It's not just Crawley. I mean, you can go to the local towns of, Horsham, Dorking, anywhere that's relatively easy access by public transport.
And it's not just the kit sales, but it's also can we advertise? Can we have marketing signs?
Yeah.
Can we raise awareness of the club so that the dream of having a 10, 12,000 seat stadium isn't a dream, but it's needed.
Yeah.
And that's the direction we need to go.
Sure.
I would say there's a plan to try to figure out a plan, to study it, to see what we can do that's cost effective in a way that's going to make everybody's lives easier, but also not limit us in other ways. I would say get to Red's Bar early. Have your pint 15 minutes earlier.
I think the truth is, if we own the grounds, there's probably a legitimately realistic way to increase the size of the turnstiles or add another one or do that. But do we want to put a portion of our budget and funding towards that right away now, relative to other things when we don't own the stadium or the grounds yet? That's something we're considering in the background and trying to weigh the options. But if we did own the property, then that's something that makes a ton of sense because it makes the fan experience much better and it increases the value of the stadium itself and the grounds and the club and everything. So that's kind of, I think, the way I would look at it in the background, kind of overall. For those that aren't aware, I think to give you guys some context, the average away support was like 200 and something last season in League Two, and it's going to be upwards of 1,000 or even more this season in League One. So it's like quite a big jump. We even discussed today like putting some food trucks or potentially it's a beer or something or other in the away section. The main problem, the away car park. The main problem would be that certain games, dependent on weather, and if there's some flooding or puddles or surfacing, like we can't do that. But obviously, if weather is good, we can try to create plans where we can at least separate some of the away supporters away from the home, so that queues are faster and everything's just more efficient in general. So that is something we're discussing and makes a ton of sense when we're going to have 4 times the away supporters visiting on match days. No, you're right. Last year, and I think the last fans forum we did was in February or something around that time. And the person sitting right in front of you asked me questions about NFTs. Yusuf did. And the truth is, we thought it was extremely important last year. Actually, I'll back up a little bit and try to give you some context as to why we even tried the NFT thing in the first place. The ability to potentially have multiple fans, thousands of fans, attaching themselves from anywhere in the world to a local English football club and rooting along and trying to, engage and have a team that they can go watch on, in America every Saturday morning or whatever it may be. That it's really hard for the local club to get thousands of extra fans. Wrexham did it, right? Thanks to Ryan Reynolds and the documentary and everything they've done. And they have more money than anyone in League Two or National League the last few years, and arguably League One even still this year. So part of the strategy was if we can bring more fans to a club, then we'll try to monetize that in a way that benefits the club and our spending ability, and maybe this is a club that doesn't lose money every year anymore. It's like that was the actual hope. Like you said, it didn't work, right? It failed. Totally fair comment. Last year, based on the way year one went, we learned that we can't have international fans that want to engage unless the local fan is happy and excited and motivated to root for their team as well and support the club. And so last year, our entire priority was focusing on football and staying pretty quiet and just letting our decision-making with recruitment last summer and everything just play itself out. And so that was priority one, is to get the local fan back on board the best we could or the best we thought we knew how. can we eventually find a strategy that incorporates some of the international fans or NFT holders? Of course, but it's a really delicate balance to try to not distract the local, on the pitch stuff, off the pitch, and everything else with the fans here, while trying to do something unique on the outside. And so that's the truthful answer. And to answer Yusuf's next question, which he probably was going to raise his hand and ask, but we met with him actually last week, and he is really committed to helping us find strategies that can benefit the club, potentially with some of these NFT holders or fans internationally, but we're not going to rush into anything. He has some people kind of as a subcommittee that want to give us some ideas that we can consider and then use those to assess before we make any decisions. But it'll be a slower process just because I think more than anything we want to continue to focus on what we have here and build off of that. After last season's success, I think that's pretty important. So that's kind of where we're at there with that.
So the question was about potentially expanding the club shop. Another item we talked about today. I have been all over the world visiting football clubs, and I go right to the club shop. And ours doesn't quite compare to some of the ones I've seen. And I know it may never in some ways, but we can also make it a great experience where folks who come in to buy a ticket for game day want to browse, and they get to try something on in a comfortable setting, and they don't feel like they're a part of a huge queue. And it's a priority for me. It's a priority for us. What that looks like remains to be seen. When we went to Wealdstone a couple weeks ago, they had a little porta cabin that was set up. I've inquired about the pricing on that. Will it make sense based on the potential new sales that we could generate from having that space to pay for it? I don't know yet. Are there ways to make the office space in there more accommodating for merchandise, potentially? But I would love if everyone could come in and have a great shopping experience and get to try on some of the great stuff. And it's something we're definitely talking about. And I love the pink top. I'm going to miss seeing the pink around. I think it was very distinctive. It was very us. Keep rocking it, but also come buy the new stuff. I'm going to pass this to Preston in a second, but I'm going to share my perspective. I'm excited that we're in League One. I'm excited to play these big clubs. I'm excited to go there. I'm excited to host them. I'm excited to be the underdog, and I'm excited for every point that we earn. And it should be a fun season regardless of how tough it might end up being. We should enjoy it. And you know what happens if we go back down? We go win League Two next year. And we need to have that mindset that this is not doom and gloom. It's a fun experience that we get to have, and if we survive, then it's great, and I expect that we do. That's my goal, my dream. Preston might have a different perspective, or he's more involved on the football side. But I think we need to be engaged with everybody the same way we would if we were winning, because the club business doesn't stop. The journey we're on over the long term doesn't stop. And I hope we can enjoy this journey even if we have ups and downs, and sometimes the downs make the whole thing sweeter. So my plan is to keep smiling through it and to be here and to engage with you all even if times are tough, but I'm hoping and planning that they're not going to be.
I appreciate his positivity, because I need it sometimes. I am going to... There was one thing in my mind I wanted to make sure I said tonight, whether someone asked it directly or not, because I've had a lot of questions about it, even outside of the podcast and everything else. So this will be a roundabout response, but it's from the bottom of my heart, and it does answer Yusuf's question, more or less. So a lot of people have asked why I stepped away, if you're going to come back, and what happened there. And I spoke a little bit to it on the podcast, but ultimately, for me and my family and others, those 2.5 years were really exhausting. It was a really tough process. We had a lot of lows the first year, and we had the greatest highs of all time last year. And I thought, we had said we're going to get promoted in 2 years. That was our goal. We achieved it. I needed a break. I needed to commit to my family in some ways. And I thought, I can kind of just ride off into the sunset. We said we'd get promoted in 2 years. Everyone said we didn't know what we were doing. And considering how bad year one was, like, holy crap, like we did it, I'm out of here. Like, I truthfully, selfishly, part of me wanted that like mic drop moment. I really did. And then I was away for 4, 5, 6 weeks. And the truth is that's kind of like, it's a pretty crappy move at the end of the day. Like, that's not who I am. And so I was sitting there back at home in California, and we were seeing the transitions happening from trying to be a League 2 club to League 1. And I'll just say, League 1 is going to be really, really hard for a lot of reasons. And I sat there thinking, you know, I don't know if I'll be able to live with myself if I don't give my heart and full effort this season in keeping this club up and trying to up the professionalism and infrastructure here to try to be League 1 level at a sustainable rate, both on and off the pitch. And Ben stepped up and wanted to help out from the get-go. He's more local now as well. And, you know, I thought it was my duty to you guys, to the club, and to our ownership group that I make sure we give this our absolute best chance this year. And so that's my goal. And I hope that means, you know, maybe we're mid-table and we surprise some people and not, you know, going down. I think the Opta prediction was like 45.5% of the time or something that came out recently. So I can tell you from, again, the bottom of my heart, I'm going to give my max effort and give us the best chance to stay up and to improve things here on the ground. And that's why I came back, because if I didn't do that and I saw things go a different direction, I wouldn't have been able to survive that in my head, to be completely honest. So, and to those that kept asking, by the way, I wanted to clear this up too, because it meant a lot to me. There was a lot of speculation and it had to do with my health concerns from earlier. And so anyone that asked me about that or have checked in, that means a lot, I appreciate it. There's been a few ups and downs throughout, but the last few scans and checkups I've had are all clear and clean, which is really positive, and I wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case. So thank you to everyone that's reached out about that too. I think that was obviously just means a lot to me. So, but the truth is, I think our morale then, to use this question directly, is one where we are all just going to give our best effort, and then to Ben's point, like, let's try to make this as positive as possible. And the truth is then, from you guys, we love your feedback. If we go on a losing streak and we lose 3 games in a row on the bounce, like what are things we can do to keep people's perspective healthy and obviously keep things positive and keep the energy high? And so that's where I think the fan support plays a big role.
Yeah, it's something we're working on, and we want to figure out the right balance of having private events which have a fixed, you know, revenue income stream versus keeping it open, which may not break even, and then balancing the combination of those two with fun events, whether that's watching darts, watching European football on Tuesday, Wednesdays, what have you. So we'll try to take as much input from all of you as we can about ideas that would bring you to Reds on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night.
So in relation to that, obviously, Reds does shut early match days for your private functions. We understand the reasoning, albeit is a frustration. But with Sky telling you kick off at 2:30 at 5:30, what happens at 5:30 kick-off on coming Saturday? Is there a wedding due in there in the evening? We're going to be kicked out before kick-off? What's the score with those situations? What's the plan for those situations?
I don't think there's a wedding, but I'm not.
As an example.
Yeah.
It's a great question. I don't know what the event schedule looks like for this weekend. We'll be planning that more closely in coordination with Corona this year, so that we'll avoid any of those situations. But for now, it's a bit of let's manage with how we've been working on it and figure out how to improve as we go. But we'd love to keep the bar open longer afterwards. So just to clarify a bit, we've had conversations with Borough Council about the idea. We have not talked about official boundaries or what land is up for debate. Some of the surveying that's been done has been basically on this side, just around the stadium, not even on the turf, and on the side of the K2. But those levels of discussions we're hoping to get into in the next couple of months is getting more practical on terms, price, the lot itself. But we're not quite there yet.
So for some context, if you didn't listen to the podcast, I'll say what I can say. The state and perception of Crawley Town a year ago from today was remarkably lower than it is today, for obvious reasons. It made it a little more difficult to recruit for obvious reasons. And so some of the consolations or things that we needed to agree to get the players we wanted in were some of those clauses where if another club out there met that buyout fee, then it was an unavoidable deal that we had to let the player go play. And they were getting offered, in some cases 4 to 6 times more money to go play somewhere else. So it was a win for the player, they earned it. Coaching staff did an amazing job developing them and integrating them into the squad. But obviously at this point, we're in a much better position, of power relative to our budget and revenue model. But in theory, we're not gonna be making deals like that going forward. And then on the flip side, can we have some protections for the other way? Of course, we're gonna be as smart and efficient as possible with those. But we were pretty strapped last summer in convincing players we thought were good enough to come play for us. That's the ultimate truth. What? Do we know what size is needed, Tom, or have we not really dug into the details of it? No. I think it's something we can figure out, Steve. Let's talk more directly about it, but I think there's a solution there, and Ben wanted to say something.
So this club is over 125 years old. That's amazing, and it should be celebrated and cherished. And we should find a way to display it, whether it's bits and pieces around areas like this that are more open, or their entrances downstairs, whether it should all be in one place. We'll work through that, but that history has got to be preserved, and all your efforts should be celebrated and should be shared with generations, because that's the fabric of this club. So we'll find a good solution for it. This is the first I've heard of it, so now we are in discussions about it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll ask our historian about it, and whether or not there should be others as well included or something. But no, we haven't. Not that I'm aware of.
It's on the basis of a visiting supporter coming into the grounds and noticing that actually something that was missing, and he felt, or they felt, that a statue, a monument or something outside the main stand was missing. You go to other football clubs, there's the top player and top management, there may even be a monument to the owners of the stadium. But in this case there was nothing, and he felt that was missing. So on the back of that, there's been internet calls for maybe what the gentleman's talking about.
I have heard about this before, Ben just hadn't. A lot of people have asked about it and recommended it. From what I gather, it's basically an ownership decision, and then do we want to spend to get a statue made and put it out there or not? And so if it's something that means a lot to you guys, I can obviously consider it more specifically and truthfully. Before we've kind of heard it and just be like, oh yeah, that might be cool, and then we've never really planned around it or found out what it would cost or what material are we making it out of. But we could dig into that and then kind of present it, talk to the CTSA, maybe they have some ideas too on how we can go about that. So yeah, if you want, I can investigate that further for sure.
My understanding is that getting the information back from the ticket provider has been not as smooth as we would have hoped. And as soon as we get access, we will be in touch with everybody as best we can. And I think your ideas are spot on and exactly what we need to be doing. So thank you for raising it.
The only way this club is going to expand the fan base is doing things like that get people into the club. And as I say, at the moment we've only got accommodation for 6,000, so those other 11,000 on Saturday will be unlucky.
That's right. And we are at record highs for season tickets this year, which is wonderful, and attribute some of that to folks who came to Wembley and that 17,000. So we have seen an uptick, and you're exactly right. We've got to go after those folks who maybe made it to Wembley but don't come down here for one reason or another. So, yeah.
The season tickets, do you have a final figure of how many were sold?
The last I saw, we were in the mid-1700s. Up. Sam is saying up.
Literally just past the level of 1,900.
1,900. How about that?
Definitely. Yeah, Jeremy's been great. Obviously, we re-signed him again this summer for longer term. He's loved it here, loves you guys. Let me think about how I want to answer this. The truth is, we've been trying to recruit from over there in feasible ways. Obviously, we have to probably have some sort of connection to the UK. Are they a citizen? Maybe they were born here. Maybe they've been in America temporarily. Like, we have to dig into those things. But there was actually a player that flew out that we thought we were signing from another club in America that fell through once he got here. That's probably about as much as I can say, but the truth is, it was a striker, it was a forward, and the truth is we're exhausting those options because the way we recruit with our data and the way that Scott likes to play and his coaching staff develops these players, with our budget relative to a lot of League One clubs, we need to find every possible advantage we can find, whether it's America or another country outside of the UK, not even America alone. So yeah, can we use that to leverage our awareness? For sure. And on top of it, it gives us, I think, a better chance to have success on the pitch too. So that's not something we're just saying, oh great, Jeremy worked out. We've really tried to dive in even deeper in some of these other countries and the possibilities. Realistically, do we need to bring more help and hands to what we're trying to accomplish long term? Of course. There's a process in us prioritizing roles and goals and achieving them. I think how many times did you watch back Wembley?
I watched the 15-minute highlight before I came home.
There you go.
I'm not ashamed to admit that.
It's fine. I've watched it more than once as well. When they alluded to 5, that was actually that was incorrect and kind of disrespectful to the fact that there's a lot more than 5 people that help this club run. If it's like the 5 that you see sitting in the hospitality suite, like Harry and Tom, and like there's like general faces that people recognize, and maybe that's closer to 5, or they're the 5 that can answer a lot of the questions a lot of the times that people have. I would just say, obviously Ben and I, now adding to that, are here full time to help where we can and try to improve things and be additive and try to take some of the mundane, minor things off of the hands of some of the other staff so that they can grow and start working on other projects or other things that we need. So do we want to add to it? Of course, and build and grow, and that's part of our vision for sure. But it's more than 5 people that are helping the club go, for sure. When they referenced that, it just wasn't very accurate. That's part of why Ben is here, but also something that I think from my perspective, we want the fit to be right and we want the price to be right. And obviously now at a higher level in League One, the suitor I think that you're referencing to before didn't fall in line with what our kind of standard would be. So that's where I'm at. Ben might have further context on some of the details or opportunities that are currently available.
We've started speaking to companies to potentially sponsor. It's obviously the biggest asset we have other than front of kit. And it'd be great to have a naming rights partner, but it won't just be anyone at any value or any brand from any industry either. We need the right partner. And hopefully we want someone who is connected to the local community. I mean, Rent-A-Kill is a great partner. They're here. They're a big company, so they're recognized not just throughout the country, but globally. And they want to dig in on the club's journey and support the community foundation as well. So we're looking for the right partner, and hopefully we find them soon, but I'm going to be knocking on doors and calling people, and if anyone in this room has connections to people who are work at companies or know people who would be interested, that's one way to support the club, is to try to connect us. So I know the foundation gives a lot of tickets out in the schools that they work in, and they're really sort of a marketing arm for us in that regard. There's also been some talk, and thanks to Sam Jordan for raising this idea, about junior reds.
That's how I started.
Right.
So the man in white talking to you was actually the man that brought me here 20-something years ago, my first game.
We did the whole season as ball boys as well.
Always, yeah. And I was a ball boy back then and became a junior ed. And people that came to Wembley that hadn't been for 10 years dug out their old junior ed scarf. That was a massive thing back in the day. And we were crap back then, so imagine what we're like now.
Well, we'd love to find a way to bring that back. We'd love to find the right partner and sponsor to do that. The family section and the East Stand is another thing that can go with that. So I'm excited to bring a program back that encourages more kids and their families to come.
I think
It'll be nice, but
If I speak a little nerdy for a second, I think before last season, right before the first kickoff, we were in the betting markets, we were like 40% to get relegated. Right now, it's close to 50-50. So it's actually an even higher chance than last year, even though last year people were very wrong. Obviously, we should have our hopes high, but also realistic. It would be insane if we somehow pulled that off, to be honest. I wouldn't even know what to say.
That's what we were all thinking this time last year.
Exactly. Can I be honest with you guys about one thing? Like I said, like League One's going to be very, very hard. And I think that's what drove me to be here, is because I wanted to give us the best chance. In some aspect, I think that'll mean success. And sometimes it might not. But I needed to give it my best shot for all of you and for our ownership group. But the truth is, last year when everyone said we were going down, and the betting market said we were going down like 40%, we were going to finish 24th out of 24, our internal projection and model had us finishing, on average, a range of like 9th to 11th. We were pretty certain everyone was wrong. This summer it is different. There's a lot more uncertainty because we don't know how to directly measure and quantify when everyone else is spending over double what you are, or sometimes even more. And the level of jump is obviously significant on the pitch and everything else that attaches to it. So for us, I don't think we can confidently say, oh, this is where we expect to be. Last season, that 9th to 11th pocket, like we even overachieved from there a little bit. And that's what's interesting about ranges is if 9th to 11th was right on average, it means sometimes you're going to finish 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, right? And so we got 7th and then we went on a run, and it was a great experience. If you were to ask me for a pocket at this very moment, I wouldn't be confidently saying 9th to 11th in League One, obviously. And I don't think I could confidently give you a range because last summer was just like a different context. And so it's really been interesting, but also is what makes it difficult. And we're just going to try to provide Scott and the staff as much talent as we possibly can to find the right answers and push the right buttons in.
obviously with Ben Levin now in the coaching role,
Yeah.
Jim and Scott's going to announce a new club captain. Because that hasn't been announced yet, has it?
I'm not sure if Sam has a plan on the
This
content media side
Yeah, this week.
this week.
There's a toss-up between Dion and Jay.
Wait, should we have a vote right now and just see? Can I turn this mic off, or is there any last second questions? Anybody?
One quick question, actually. Obviously, with all of the change in personnel, obviously one of the concerns a lot of fans are, would Scott be satisfied or happy or content? Obviously, you can't say too much, but is he content where we are, or is he bloody like cursing underneath all this and outwardly projecting the right image?
You want to call him and ask? Say, hey, you're live on YouTube.
Well, no, but generally, I'm interested to know generally how he feels in terms of, obviously, his team's been dismantled through no fault of their own, the sounds of things, and nonetheless, he's got to start again. It must be quite galling, I'd have thought. So, you know, is his head in the right place?
I can honestly say the one thing that Scott is great at is his confidence and his belief in his system, the way he coaches, the way he plays the game, and his staff and what they can bring to the table to aid him. And there hasn't been, and I'm being truthfully honest, any sort of outburst my way on the state of the situation or this or that. He's obviously been keen to understand why certain things happen versus others, and like we've kept him, you know, part of that process throughout the summer. And you know, even 2 days ago, Saturday night after the Ebbsfleet match, I was on the phone with him for 44 minutes and 56 seconds talking over some recruiting strategy for the next week or two before, you know, the season gets underway. And then following that, he was on the phone with, you know, Tobias, who we've referenced before, is helping with some of the recruiting and consulting there. And they were on the phone, I think it was over an hour. So he's ingrained, and he was looking at film yesterday of a player that we've targeted that we really would like to bring in. And he gave us the okay. He says, you know, thinks he looks good. Like, so he's really good at staying positive and being confident, because that's just what ultimately was one of the reasons we had success last year, is everyone bought into what he preaches, and his attitude and aura is just like absolutely like we're the underdog and embraces it.